Monkey D. Luffy. We're going to talk about how fast he is, does he have durability negation, and we're going to talk about that multiversal APDC scale that he has that a lot of people are using to get him to beat almost every character within the big three. So recently people have been messaging me, asking me my opinion on some of these Luffy scales. So I'm going to go through some of these Luffy scales as well as some of the other feats that people have brought up, and I'll give my analysis on them. If you would like to see more of my content, I will be posting more regularly on YouTube. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. So, Luffy versus Naruto has been quite a recent trend of events. So let's go through some of the people's claims that we've seen here on TikTok.
And the winner is...
Alright, so right off the bat, Luffy is shit stomping Naruto. He has like way better AP. Unlike Frog, Kuma, Taurus, Saint Shuriken that's to go through skin shells, Luffy has Ryu that's just spiritual energy that goes through your body, combustion it from the inside. So it doesn't matter how strong you are, Luffy bypasses your durability.
It doesn't matter how strong you are, Luffy bypasses your durability. That perfectly fits the criteria of a no limits fallacy. A no limits fallacy is when someone states that because something has not been demonstrated to have any limits, then it has none. Example, Itachi said that no one without the Mangekyo Sharingan can defeat him. Therefore, he can beat all of DC, Marvel, and basically fiction. This is no different to the statement he's making. It doesn't matter how strong your durability is, you can beat him. Now, it's come to my attention from my comment section that many people keep asking, what is durability negation? Why does this make Luffy win? Durability negation is the ability that allows users to damage the target regardless of its durability. In particular, enables causing serious damage to a very strong opponent. There are many different kinds of durability negation, and the main category that Luffy would fit into would be attacking internal organs, because we've seen him blow out trees from the inside out. In other words, Luffy could just punch people's hearts from the outside and still manage to affect them from the inside out. However, there is a note here at the bottom of this page. It says it should not be assumed that the above listed abilities automatically grant durability negation unless they have been shown to work as such in the verse. Luffy has not yet proven that he's able to attack people's internal organs. Therefore, he does not have durability negation. Secondly, you have to prove that he's able to negate durability up to that level, because it says it has to be shown to work in the verse as such. So, if it was a universal character that he used it on, and he managed to negate their durability all the way up to that, even though, let's say, Luffy's only planetary AP, then that would be a clear example of durability negation working as such in the verse. But we haven't seen any of those kind of feats, therefore Luffy does not negate durability up to a universal level, otherwise it'll be a no limits fallacy.
He also tries to compare Naruto and Luffy in speed. Luffy is much faster into FTL. You can get him to MFTL.
What? MFTL. Luffy MFTL. Huh?
Lucci is basically 5 times faster than Blue No. Luffy has to use Gear Second to even be relative to Blue No. So you can just say that he's 5 times faster in Gear Second, so he should be 5 times faster than Luffy.
In the manga, Luffy doesn't actually have a stated Gear 2 multiplier. And because it's not stated, that means he does not have any multiplier. So let's get into the specifics of those multipliers a little bit. How much does Gear 2, Gear 3, and Gear 4 multiply Luffy's speed and his strength by? Now, there's some rules and regulations for using these multipliers. Here are some examples of those regulations. In summary, the multipliers must come from direct statements, like the manga, for example. Secondly, they must be reliable statements. They can't just come from some random who has no clue about the ability. They must have a credible source to prove that that statement is valid. And thirdly, the specific multiplier must state whether it be for speed or power to prove the multiplier. It can't just be, 100 times power multiplier. Doesn't boost their speed necessarily. So here we have a direct statement that Shikai to Bankai is a 5 to 10 times multiplier. The source is a character who is very familiar with the particular abilities that she's talking about, Shikai and Bankai. She's one of the fastest characters, so she's definitely a credible and reliable source. Not only that, this is coming from a direct statement within the manga. This multiplier is stated, so when Ichigo transforms from Shikai to Bankai, it's safe to say that it's a 5 to 10 times multiplier. However, remember the third requirement, it had to state whether it be speed or power. So we don't have any statements of speed or power from this particular panel, but if we look around, we can find them in other panels to support this particular claim. So in the official translations of the data books, we can see here in this panel that it states that Bankai Tenza Zangetsu channels all of the Bankai power into speed. So if Ichigo's Bankai, which is what they're talking about here, because this is an Ichigo page, and if you look at the bottom, that's actually what we're zoomed in on here, so you can read it. We now know that this 5 to 10 times multiplier from Shikai to Bankai is an ability that channels all of the power into speed. And so if that's the case, we've got a credible source that stated that this 5 to 10 times multiplier is a speed multiplier. So now we know that Ichigo from Shikai to Bankai, his speed is multiplied by 5 to 10 times. Now here's an example of a bad multiplier. As it said here, that for better judgment on how much evidence one should bring if one wishes a multiplier to be accepted, and to decrease double standards as much as possible, one can look at the following precedent cases. Multipliers without reliable statements. Dragon Ball Super Saiyan multipliers are rejected due to never being stated in the actual series or in the manga. They were stated in the Daisenshu that Super Saiyajin 1 was a 50 times multiplier and 2 was a 2 times multiplier, and Super Saiyan 3 or Super Saiyan 3 was a 4 times multiplier. However, because these multipliers were not stated within the actual main canon or the main story, or in other words, the manga, in summary, this basically means that Luffy has no gear multipliers. There's no such thing as a gear multipliers. They don't exist. There's no gear 2 multiplier, 3 or 4. Compare this to Ichigo, who has actual statements of his form's multipliers. Luffy does not, therefore he has no multipliers. Now, I'm not saying that he doesn't get stronger or faster throughout the series. He definitely does. However, instead of using multipliers, which can be extremely inaccurate form of scaling, what you can do is scale off feats. Now that's not the same as, oh, gear 2 is a 5 times multiplier. Scaling off a feat would be like, he beat this person who was using lightning attacks that makes him lightning speed. Compare that to this situation where Luffy switches to gear 2 and was able to beat someone who is 5 times faster. This would mean that, let's say later on, he goes to fight somebody and he's equal to this person, but then he switches into gear 2, he should every single time be able to blitz somebody, because if you're going to become 5 times faster but you were only equal to them prior to using gear 2, then you should be able to clap them once you've used your 5 times multiplier. However, that's never the case. We don't see Luffy just clapping everyone every time he switches into gear 2, because being 5 times faster than what you were before is a 5 times multiplier, but Luffy does not do this consistently. Not like other characters like Ichigo, for example, when he makes that transition from Shikai to Bankai, is a significant power boost, and you see a significant difference in him not being able to keep up to being able to keep up. Whereas we don't see this with Luffy. Another thing that's really important to keep in mind is that multipliers are not necessarily constant. For example, if a character is twice as fast at one point in time, that might not apply later. Alright, let's have another look at the video again.
Using Burndy World, basically Luffy skills this guy can multiply speed by 100.
First of all, is no one going to talk about the fact that this dude was literally using One Piece fandom wiki as a source? Like, that was his source for finding this information? Anyways, so this is one of the easier multipliers to debunk because a multiplier cannot be contradicted. As it says here, multipliers will obviously only be used if they are not contradicted. A typical case would be if a character gets 10 times stronger but fighters that were previously equal can still somehow keep up. So basically, in the film, Burndy World is stated to have a 30 to 50 to even 100 times speed and power and just overall statistic multiplier. And he uses it here, as you can see, more and more 30 to speed. Now, Luffy gets blitzed in Gear 2, but then he goes into Gear 3 and gets blitzed again. Kind of just skipped to conclusions here, so yeah, this is him in Gear 3. Then, they go to fight again, and Burndy uses all his multipliers. As you can see, he switches them on right here. So let's say he's got 100 times multiplier. So if a character gets 10 times stronger, but Luffy was able to keep up with them somehow still, then this multiplier is contradicted and therefore not seen as a valid multiplier. As you can see, even after using this 100-fold multiplier, Luffy's still able to keep up, therefore it's a contradicted multiplier, and it cannot be used to scale characters' speed or power. And back to the video.
Speed by 3 with Gear 4, so you should be 1500 times faster.
Also, this particular multiplier, it said in the panel He's hardening his skin with armament haki and using the tensile force to raise his power several times beyond its limit. Now, under the regulations for multipliers section, it actually states this specifically. One should also consider which statistic a multiplier applies to. If a character was stated to get 10 times more power or powerful, then that does not necessarily mean that all of its statistics are multiplied by 10. For example, could a fiction in principle have a character become a 10 times more dangerous fighter just by increasing his combat technique with only minor increases in stats? A more classical scenario is one where a character's strength increases by some multiplier but its speed is untouched. So because the panel used the word several times more powerful or raise his power, according to the regulation, power does not equal speed. So this multiplier does not touch speed at all, does not boost speed. Power does not equal speed. So how fast is Monkey D. Luffy? Let's look at pre-timeskip Luffy first. So the first feat that we want to have a look at is the photon beams that he was dodging. Because people claim that Luffy was dodging these slow beams, giving him speed of light combat reaction speeds. So as you can see in all these feats, he didn't dodge any of these photon beams. Every single one of them he was hit, especially when Foxy was aiming for Luffy with the photon beams. Here, you can see Luffy was blitzed by a cannonball. He was not able to react in time to save himself from a cannonball flying past, because he was holding onto it, but he didn't let go in time, and as a consequence, he got wrecked. Now, a cannonball travels roughly 193 miles per hour. Therefore, if Luffy was blitzed by a cannonball, this would put Luffy's speed at subsonic, which is 76 to 383 miles per hour, because he couldn't react to a cannonball, which is only 193 miles per hour. But we already know that he managed to dodge lightning earlier when he fought NL, so that would actually put him at massively hypersonic. So we can then assume that these balls were moving roughly massively hypersonic. Now, to give you an idea, massively hypersonic plus is 3045 times slower than light. So for Luffy to be dodging these beams would be a clear outlier, because you can see that every time that Foxy tries to shoot him, he never misses and he always hits him. As you can see, Foxy states himself that he wasn't aiming for Luffy, he was actually aiming for the mirror behind. So this gives Luffy the opportunity to aim dodge. If you watch throughout the scene, there's a significant difference from the beginning point of where the photon beams start, which is from Foxy, to where Luffy is. And Luffy only tries to dodge the gloves. He's not actually trying to dodge the light or the photon beams. See, if you have a look here, there is a massive distance. That is clear aim dodging, being able to see light come from that distance. As you can also see here, he's actually mostly focusing on dodging the fist. See, the photons aren't even going for him. Why? Because they're following a reoccurring pattern. So he easily knows where they're going to be. So he's only specifically trying to dodge the gloves. Now, you can even see it more clearly in this scene. See, look, they're not even going for him. And even here, you can see that he's not even dodging the photons. Watch this scene and look closely. He's literally not even being shot at. So aim dodging refers to the technique of avoiding linear attacks by repositioning oneself away from the path of the attack before it's fired. Like in this feat, you can already see that he's out of the way and he's dodging the aim. Here gives the example where Batman knows that there is a person with a gun. However, he slips to the side and avoids the gun instead of actually dodging the bullets. Therefore, he does not scale to bullet speed or hypersonic from this feat. No different to Luffy, he can see the attacks coming and he is dodging them. As it says here, previous knowledge of the attack projectile's pattern will count as aim dodging, as the attack could be dodged via prior knowledge instead of reaction. Precognition, which would be like Haki, or future sight or spidey senses is the example they used, or any skill that helps a character predict the attack path beforehand in any form are also considered prior knowledge. Is considered aim dodging, and aim dodging discredits speed feats. So if it wasn't for the plot, or the fact that he smashed the mirror here, he would never have made it out of this section, he would have just been trapped. But because he smashed the mirror, he was able to get a hit on Foxy, and that's why he's damaged here, you can see that. Now, here again, he's back to getting shot and he can't dodge them. So if he supposedly dodged photon beams like he was before, then why did he immediately, then why was he not able to dodge these beams right after, like directly after? He's still getting hit by them, even at a distance when he can see them coming. You know, he's clearly aim dodging. Even if he was to have dodged here, the fact that he didn't proves that he was aim dodging prior. Now, in this particular arc, he had some serious plot armor. Not only did he conveniently smash the mirror, which ruined the whole technique of Foxy's, but he also collected a shard that happened to be stuck in his afro. And because of that shard, it reflected Foxy's photon beam against him, freezing him in place for 30 seconds, or slowing him down. And that is the only reason why Luffy was able to land a massive king hit on him. So if that isn't plot-induced stupidity, then, I mean, Deku is massively faster than light with this kind of logic. But clearly it is PIS, and he doesn't scale from this, because he's literally 3,000 times slower. If we're going to judge from some of the feats that he performed in the past, he's only at lightning speed at this point. So there's no way he jumped for no reason. He didn't get any transformations or power levels for no reason. So that means it's plot-induced stupidity, and he does not scale. It's a non-viable power scaling feat. If you don't know what non-viable power scaling examples are, go check it out. So if you take a look at the third paragraph, it basically states that if the upper limit of a character is proven to be subsonic, and then they beat a faster than light character, this doesn't scale, because that's PIS. It's clearly for plot. This is the same for Luffy. Luffy was clearly around massively hypersonic plus at this time period, and he's beating a speed of light attack. It's plot. He does not scale. Alright, second feat is that Luffy is faster than light because of the pad cannons. However, let's go through what a pad cannon is and how the ability is explained by Kuma. He says he has the power to deflect anything. Now, Kuma explains the pad cannon as deflecting air pressure at light speed, and it creates a shockwave that can pierce through anything, and this is confirmed in the manga as well. So the rules for light speed attacks is as it states here. Light or lasers is a fairly common trope in fiction. Now, the most important statement here is that light is the fastest known thing in the real universe. Therefore, if it's a real light beam or a real light speed attack, it should meet a minimum of a few of these criteria. So some of the criteria that it does not meet, the pad cannon, is that it does not refract in a new material. It does not reflect off materials. You see it pierce straight through things. The beam is not called light speed itself. It's not even called a beam of light or beam. And it's not stated to be made of photons or light itself by any reliable source. Another thing that you can see here is that it says air pressure deflected at light speed. So is it the action of deflecting the air that's moving at light speed, or is it the attack or the air itself, the pad cannon attack that's moving, the shockwave that's created? Well, that's also easily debunkable by just modern science. So shockwaves create a strong pressure wave in an elastic medium, such as air. And we see this in aircraft, for example. When they break the sound barrier, you'll see that supersonic aircraft create these explosions or these phenomena upon breaking the sound barrier, as you can see here. Now here's the important part, that shock waves travel faster than sound and their speed increases as amplitude is raised. So you can assume that the amplitude of a light speed deflection would be quite high. So they would be much faster shock waves or air being repelled. But this is the part that matters. The intensity of the shockwave also decreases. Even if the initial deflection was at light speed, technically because it's air, there would be a drop-off speed, and these attacks would not be light speed consistently. As stated before, the shockwaves decrease in speed over time. So if we apply the same logic to the slow beams or the Foxy photon beams that we were talking about earlier with Luffy, then this would mean that because Luffy's upper limit was massively hypersonic and Zoro's is also massively hypersonic, that for Zoro to be dodging these shock waves or air repelled, then it would still be an outlier because his upper limit has been proven to not be soul, or in other words, speed of light. So there's no way that he should be able to dodge these. These are outliers or plot-induced stupidity. And even if that was true, we still don't know for sure that it's actually the attack, the air, that's light speed, or if it's his arms, the little pads that are deflecting at light speed, like little pads are moving at light speed in order to create this pressure. In context, judging from the fact he just explained his ability, it's most likely that he's talking about his ability deflecting at light speed. So he's using his paws, and his paw deflection ability moves at light speed, not the air or the shockwaves that he's creating moves at light speed, because he's talking about the pad cannon. Therefore, these are clear plot-induced stupidity outliers, and Zoro dodging these attacks aren't light speed. Now, just to further prove that all of these prior feats are clear plot-induced stupidity, is the fact that here, this is like Marineford arc, right? We see that Kizaru blitzes Luffy and knocks him out. And it's not just on one occasion, on several occasions we've seen him blitz. And he literally says, "You're too slow." So, Luffy is no way, shape, or form on Kizaru level.
You're full of courage, aren't you? But take this word of advice. If you're simply not strong enough, no matter how courageous you may be, you won't even come close to saving him. Why don't you just give up?
Right, Luffy pre-time skip is faster than light.
Hey!
You're joking.
His brother!
And we know that Kizaru kicks at the speed of light, so if he's not able to do anything and got one-shotted and knocked down by Kizaru, then he is clearly not the speed of light. Post-time skip, PX5, pacifistas, lasers. Now, we notice that Luffy's actually looking down, so he's not clearly aim dodging, but you could just maybe hypothesize that he is actually aware of the attack, so he has a knowledge of these attacks and where they're going to come from, and they're at quite a distance, so you could argue that it's aim dodging just from that alone. But let's go even further to prove that this is definitely aim dodging. Now this is how we're going to prove it. He just turned into gear second. Now he's not using any form of armament haki. Note here, have a look. We don't see any hardening or armament whatsoever. But notice what Sentomaru says here. After just blitzing this pacifista, Sentomaru points out this. Straw Hat. He is using haki. And people say, well, it doesn't necessarily mean it's observation haki, this was just an assumption. Well, think about it. It's not Conqueror's haki, he didn't just conquer him from a distance. And it's not armament haki, he didn't harden anything. And therefore, it can only be one other form of haki that's been explained so far in the series. And that's observation haki. And we know during the time skip, he's learnt about observation haki. He might not be as good as he is when he fights Katakuri at using observation haki. However, did you know that Luffy actually uses observation haki pre-time skip? So not only was it very clear to Luffy that there was an attack coming from a distance, I think the charge up time for the laser is a good giveaway that he's going to shoot him, so that he's got clear previous knowledge of the attack that it's going to come to him, that he's able to dodge it. Furthermore, he had haki, and Sentomaru stated that he used haki, in other words, future sight. So because he had prior knowledge of the attack path beforehand, this does not scale Luffy's speed, because prior knowledge is aim dodging discredits speed feats because you're using prior knowledge or future sight in order to dodge an attack instead of your speed. You're not using your reaction speed, so it doesn't upscale your speed. So this is not a speed feat. Another thing is that they notice that these bots are fake Kumas, and that they're not as fast and they dodge a lot more often, so they're weaker. So we don't actually know if it's true that these pacifistas truly have Kizaru's laser. They could be fake or weaker lasers. So after all that's been said, what does that make Luffy's speed? Well, if we were to even give the multipliers and be generous, as we can see, Luffy dodged lightning here. So the reason why I'm not giving him light speed as a base, because he never actually achieved any light speed feats, based on all the feats that we've analyzed and looked at and all the different contradictory evidence to support the fact that he's not light speed. Let's start with lightning speed as a base, and we'll give him all the multipliers that people are claiming. So first, gear 2 is a 5 times multiplier, burn your world is a 100 times multiplier, and then we've got a 3 times multiplier after that. What you end up with is still relativistic plus, because you're taking base Luffy, who was able to dodge lightning, and then you're timesing that by 5, which gives you still pretty much massively hypersonic speed. But then the 100 times multiplier gets him to at least sub-relativistic, and then you times that by 3 again. This still only gets him around sub-relativistic. Now, let's say that they do scale somewhat to some of these light speed attacks, but we proved that they were aim dodging. This would mean that they only scale to a fraction, or like a high percentage, of what that attack is. So if it's a light speed attack, that would be relativistic. So if we were to scale from relativistic, I still think Luffy would be around relativistic plus. And I'd say that to be a generous lowball. So as a lowball scale, I'd scale Luffy's speed to be relativistic plus. While we're here, let's talk about Luffy's multiversal scale.
Today I'm going to be improving the multiversal Luffy scale. So pretty much people were doing it wrong before because they try to use the word isekai and say it translates to dimension or universe. This part is actually right, but the part about Jinbe was the wrong part before. They were trying to verify the validity of the statement.
So I'm just going to pause here because you can pretty much debunk the entire scaling of this multiversal AP thing, because basically what they're saying is that each book is infinite and has infinite amount of worlds. Therefore, if you destroyed all of them, it'd be multiversal. However, these books are proven just to be illusions. While we're here, let's talk about Luffy's multiversal scale.
Today I'm going to be improving the multiversal Luffy scale.
So the entire scale is based on these books being infinite worlds, but they are just illusions. Here you can see Montador as he opens a book in front of Luffy, that Luffy then gets pulled into the book. Here he comments, "What is this place?" And then you see Montador appearing through the wall, and just all of a sudden everything burst into flames. So the camera angles are changing from what Luffy's seeing, and then it goes to what Nami is seeing, and Nami is just seeing him looking like he's being crazy, but she doesn't realize that he's stuck in an illusion as a consequence of that book being opened in front of him. And then, as you can see here, he goes back into the illusion because we're seeing from his perspective now. These events are also reconfirmed in manga chapter 846, so these aren't just exclusive to the actual anime. So this multiversal Luffy scale has been officially debunked. This is just an illusion ability and does not scale anything to do with AP. Thank you for watching. If you would like to see more of my content, I will be posting more regularly on YouTube. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button.